Hey! Today, I would like to talk a bit about the multi-voice mod that I made. First, I'd like to do a short intro, and then I'd like to talk about some aspects related to the code. After that, I'd like to talk about the bees patch and also a little bit about bees. And finally, I'd like to do a short demo. So, let's start with the intro. I should probably begin by explaining why I decided to create this mod. Up until recently, I was thinking of aleph primarily as an external effect or separate module. But digging more into aleph, especially bees, has allowed me to realize how well it works as a standalone, all-in-one unit, and so I've been getting more interested in using it that way. Since my focus shifted regarding how I wanted to use aleph, I wanted to get a better idea of how it generates sound. Thankfully, there are some really good example mods already, specifically monosynth and waves. There are a lot of things that I'd like to try in the future, but I wanted to start out by making a drone type mod. I knew I needed multiple voices, and since I really like the Solar 50 and the drone bank, I thought it might be fun to try building something like one of those, especially since I don't have access to either of them. Although what I ended up with is quite a bit closer to drone bank than Solar 50, it has 4 voices: saw, square, sine, and triangle, and, I guess, basic polyphonic capabilities. I think the Solar 50 uses all saw waves, and drone bank uses triangle waves, and I may make another version of multi-voice where all the voices are the same type in the future. The reason that I wanted 4 different voices was because osc-polyblep, in the DSP directory, includes 4 different voices, and I wanted to leave myself working versions for each one that I could use in the future. So next, let's talk about the code a bit. I already have multivoice.c on GitHub. It is based heavily on monosynth.c, but I took out the original envelope. The reason that I used monosynth as the prototype for this one was because the wavetable method, like waves.c, is still a little bit difficult for me conceptually in terms of the code. Monosynth uses osc-polyblep, which is a little bit easier to implement for me at this point. So, let's have a quick look at osc-polyblep.h. There are 4 voices, and they are pretty much the same in terms of parameters, but there are some differences, so I kind of wanted to figure out how to use each one. Because of the way these voices are generated, I think that it might be harder on the CPU than waves wavetables, and that's definitely something to consider, especially when we're stacking multiple voices and working with larger bees-up networks. But, for now, this seemed to be the best way, that mostly met my current skill level, to get up and running more quickly. So, let's have a look at a few elements of the multivoice.c code. First, I set up variables for each voice, and they're mostly the same. I just did that to kind of keep things straight for myself in the future. Maybe next time I won't use all of the different voices together, but this method helps me by giving me easily identifiable prototypes that I can use to quickly set up voices in the future. In terms of initializing, I have grouped the parameters by voice again. A majority of this code came directly from monosynth.c. So going down to the module_process_frame function, we have the 4 voices: saw voice, square voice, sine voice, and tri-voice, with the code to make them go. Each voice is sent to a separate output. The reason that I did this initially was because I thought that it might be fun to try sending each output to a different effect, delay or something, but I didn't actually end up doing that for the demo today. I might also try changing one of the individual outs to a mix-out, like DroneBank has. The other thing that I did, because I took out the envelope, was to add volume or level control for each voice. I also added slew, and I got the example code from mix.c. I thought it might be fun to try fading voices in and out smoothly, but I needed a replacement for the envelope functionality I took out of the original monosynth.c code. From using mix.c, I knew the level adjust code from that mod would work, and having slew would also make the transitions a lot smoother, and I am pretty happy with how it turned out. Okay, next, let's talk about bees. I really like bees a lot. After getting aleph and looking at bees, I sort of understood how it worked, and the official documentation was very helpful, but I just didn't fully understand the functionality and power bees offered. The more time I spend with it though, it's just really amazing. I'm sure it is my favorite sort of control system for any synthesizer. It's just awesome. The UP documentation has been an incredibly helpful resource for thinking about the ways that ops work and could work together, and even though I'm still learning, and there are still many things about bees that I don't completely understand, I'm getting more familiar with it, and the more familiar I get with it, the more I really like it. So, all of that being said, the bees op network for the multivoice demo is very basic. It just fades voices in and out based on values sent from Ocum after it is triggered by Metro. I also included some functionality to adjust the Hertz value for saw voice. I am sure there is a lot more that could be done with this network, and streamlining a bit more is probably also a possibility. I may revisit this network in the future if I make another version of multivoice, and I am sure I will use some of these concepts as building blocks in future bees networks. So, the last thing that I would like to do is a short demo of the multivoice mod using the bees up network that I made for it. The bees patch notes should be available on GitHub soon. Thank you.